Yes.
Okay, so basically this is like an introduction PPT which I'm going to cover today. So SAP C4C Cloud for
Okay.
Customer Software and Service cloud offering from SAP that runs on a SAP HANA cloud platform. So basically, for if you want to dig into this, just walk through like what is cloud computing versus what is SaaS, what is PaaS. So it will give you a good overview regarding the cloud computing things, and you will be able to understand what is software as a service, and then you can start working on that. Then this cloud CRM combines
Okay.
sales, customer service, and social selling tools, which enable sales representative to interact with customer in more meaningful way and develop strong personal connection that allowed for improved engagement across communication channels. So basically, what this helps, the cloud-based CRM helps basically if let's suppose a sales executive is working at a particular place, they don't need to carry their laptop to go walk in through the web UI screen. They can simply carry their
Okay.
tablet, or they can simply carry their mobile phone, and we have a separate application for that also. You can log into that particular application, you can create a lead, you can get an opportunity, you can create a service ticket, you can create anything from that particular application depending on the role which you're working for. Okay, and depending on the work center
Okay.
access which is there for you. Then C4C focuses on
Okay.
improved and easy under experience, that is basically Fiori application design principle. So basically what SAP was doing initially, I hope you are familiar with SAP. So what happened initially, we used to work on dialog programming, that we used to call it as module programming, right? Then SAP introduces web
Okay.
UI in CRM, and parallelly when web UI was at peak, SAP on back end starts working on the WebDyn Pro. They introduced WebDyn Pro.
Okay.
So after WebDyn Pro, they introduced
Hmm.
Fiori application, where we have to build Fiori application manually initially. But after invention of S4HANA, we have a number of standard applications provided by SAP, and we are working on it. So similar to that Fiori application, we have the C4C. Okay, it's a Fiori-based application where
Okay.
we are working on. Initially, when SAP C4C was introduced, we have two different, I can say three different systems, three different skin where we used to work on. So initially, when I can
Hmm.
say C4C was introduced, we have this Fiori application which I just showcased to you. I mean, this is currently changed now. This is very advanced now. But before that, we have this Fiori client. Then we have HTML5 client, and then we have Silverlight also. Silverlight got decommissioned, I
Silverlight.
think,
Okay.
nearby 2018, and in 2020 or 20, yeah, in September 2020, HTML5 also got decommissioned, and we have only the single skin where we are working on. So previously, admin-related activities are
Oh,
working on
okay.
Silverlight. Previously, admin-related activities were
Okay.
working on Silverlight, and after sunset of Silverlight,
Okay.
everything was shifted to HTML5, and after sunset of HTML5, everything is shifted to our this Fiori-based application.
So
Okay.
tell me one thing, customers who are based on, sorry, one question here. So customers who are based on HTML5 and Silverlight, so they have asked to move to Fiori, or they can still continue with HTML5 and
No,
Silverlight?
no,
Basically,
that's
how is it?
completely
Like,
decommissioned now. No one is having access to work on HTML5 and Fiori and Silverlight now. Before that, what we have to do, we have to. I mean, if you have an admin access, you have to click on this button, and there's an option called Open HTML5, navigate to HTML5 client. So after navigate to HTML5, I mean that was for admin related activities only, and user have only the screen to work on initially.
okay, okay.
Okay.
So now everything is Fiori based on the cloud
Everything is
also.
on
C4C
Fury.
is
Yeah,
also everything
everything
will be
is on
Fiori.
Fury. Yeah, everything is there. So basically, this is like an, I can say, integrated environment. So hopefully you're able to see a cloud here. So basically in cloud, we have sales cloud,
Okay.
social media. I can say we can integrate service with the social media activities. Then we have cloud for service cloud. Basically, we can access it on mobile phone, tablets, or computer or laptop. We can access it anywhere. It's easy to use, and we can use it anywhere. And we have an integrated environment which is used to integrate two systems. I can say in CRM on-premise we have middleware as BDoc, which we used to use, but here we
Correct.
can use
Correct.
EPI or PI. We can use Delbumi as well, but yes, majority of the projects which you will be working on, it will be CPI or PI.
Hmm.
Okay, we can connect
Okay.
it via
Okay.
ERP or
Okay.
CRM, or we can connect it with the third-party applications also. But third-party application is something different, which I can say. Then this is like we can connect it success factor. This is like on-premise system, CRM on-premise system, web UI, and it's like browser-based UI we can connect. Basically, this is like how it's connected with the different things. And this is like
Hmm.
a basic overview, like Cloud for Sale, the previous image which I have showcased to you. So this is how CRM involves. So I hope you are already familiar with things like how CRM evolves in SAP. It started in
So
1995.
one question.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so this is like evolution of CRM, how the CRM evolves. Yeah. So tell me your question. What was your question?
No, no. I just wanted to know, like, how many years you have been working in SAP and your cloud. Like, when did you start your journey of cloud?
When
That's
C4C
what.
was introduced, I started working from that time onwards. Okay, I have approximately, I can say 15 plus years of experience into SAP industry. I worked on ABAP, I worked
Okay.
on CRM ABAP, I worked on, I can say C4C, CX, FSM,
Okay.
CPQ. I worked on all the modules. Basically, currently I'm handling a CX industry. Okay,
Okay.
CX, I can say capability I'm handling right now.
Okay.
Okay. So that's how the I can say CRM evolves. It was initially put at Bangalore, and then we have CRM, and then this is like how CRM evolved: EHP1, EHP2, EHP3. So that's how the CRM evolves basically. Okay, so C4C architecture. The overall architecture of C4C is that of multi-tenant architecture, which means that the SAP C4C and the integration components itself is shared with other customers. So basically, if I talk about the cloud computing capability, we have a capability like a particular space is hosted in a cloud and that is shared with different clients. Okay, so that's multi-tenant architecture.
Okay.
So basically a space is there. I hope you might be familiar, like a single laptop, we will a number of people can access it if they are accessing with the remote desktop protocol, remote desktop RDP basically. So that's similar to that one. There is also single tenant model for customer, which is private edition for additional cost. The multi-tenant model means that when SAP upgrades or release a patch, might override some of the custom solution built on top of C4C solution. So basically, this is something which I can say is for SAP C4C technical purpose only. But I can say there is very lesser chance of changing of the patch deployment, which is already there, the solution which is already there. I can say 99.9% it's not
Okay.
changed, but there's a possibility 0.1%, like the standard BOs which is available, it got changed. Okay,
Okay.
so basically we have two types of mode. First one is multi-tenant model, second one is single tenant model. By multi-tenant model, I can say it as public cloud. Single tenant means we will call it as a private cloud. Okay, clear?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So
So
one
basic.
question here
Mhm,
for you. Can you just go back to
mhm.
that screen? Yeah. So when you say single tenant means, is it pertaining to just one, like, I didn't get the difference between single tenant and multi-tenant,
Okay,
like, basically.
so basically, let me tell you one thing. If you are working for a government organization, what is their preferred criteria always? If you're working for a banking industry or government organization, what is their preferred? I can say they need everything secured, right?
Correct.
So
Secure.
what they
Yeah.
used
Correct.
to do,
Correct. Correct.
a single hosting is allocated to a particular person only. Okay, to a particular client only. It's not working on the shared model. A single space is provided to a
Okay.
particular government organization to a particular client. That's the meaning of, I can say, single tenant or private model. I can say private tenant, which we used to call it as. So
So
basically, it
so
will
what
not be a
you're
shared
saying
model.
is,
Mhm.
okay, okay, okay. So what you are saying is that will not be shared with other customers. They are tenant. It
Correct,
will be
correct.
only for them,
A
basically, right?
particular place will be hosted
Okay.
for a particular client, and no one is will be having access to that particular thing. Generally, security purposes, government organization and banking sector, they used to go with this kind of approach. But yes, it doesn't mean
Okay.
that the multi-tenant model is not secured. It's also secured. Your data will not be shared among each other, but yes, it's like for getting the extra money. Okay, that's how
So
the
single
C4C is
tenant
designed.
servers cost would be higher, right, as compared to
Yeah,
multi-tenant, correct?
that's also mentioned over here. The cost of single tenant is higher as compared to the public tenant one, because like, see, basically they are providing you a dedicated, see, basically I can say a particular host, a particular space is allocated to 10 customers, so they are getting money from
Correct,
10 customers, right? If they are selling it to one
correct,
customer, they're going to charge 10 times more. Okay, so something like
correct,
that.
correct, correct.
Okay, so we
And
have
that
the
tenant,
C4C.
when you say, it is the URL, right? That we saw
Yeah,
on
tenant is
that
the URL.
on
This
that
is the
picture.
tenant ID. This is the tenant ID. My
Okay,
3x is something the number,
okay.
the numeric number that is provided by SAP and .crm.ondemand.com. On backend, there will be an IP address, but yes, you have to log in with this tenant ID only.
So the crm.ondemand.com would be always the same, right, for all the customers.
Correct.
Only
It
that
will
my
always be
triple
same.
that
Only
authorized, that will
this.
change.
Yeah, only this value
That
is
will
going to
change.
change. Yeah. So we have
Okay.
only one SAP C4C test tenant, which would be used for configuration of business process and doing the UIT and kind of testing. And once all the testing is passed through and done with the configuration, you request SAP to create production tenant. So basically, if you are working on an implementation scenario, so what SAP will do, you will request SAP to provide a tenant ID. So they will give you initially test tenant ID. Okay, and once you are done with the configuration, you will request SAP to provide you the production tenant. So basically, what they will do, they will get a production tenant and move all the configurations to the production system. So that's the initial step done by I can say SAP only. We cannot do that because the hosting and everything is provided by SAP only. So we have test tenant as free
Okay.
of cost, and production tenant is always chargeable. We can have one more tenant
So
also.
one question.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can have more tenants also, like we can have sandbox also, we can have 3 environment, we can have 4 environment, but that totally depends on the client how much I mean they want to work with, because I can say mostly in majority of the projects we have 3 types of tenants. First one is sandbox, where SDK team used to work on, and second one is pre-prod, that's
Okay.
I can say the test tenant, and third one is the live system production system.
So SDK is mainly used for the developers, right? Mainly that is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
that's used by developer only, technical person.
Okay. Okay. And the testing is done by the functional and any functional configuration. In C4C, do you have many functional configurations or it is very less basic?
We have a lot of functional configuration.
Okay, it is there. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
that's
so these,
something.
my question is, yeah, sorry. So my question is, if you do the functional configuration, is it moving through the production tenant? When SAP gives the production tenant, does it move through a transport request, like how in a normal CRM maybe
That
it
is
does, or how
something
does it
I'm
move actually?
that is something I'm going to cover in the upcoming sessions. We have transport requests, but we have a limited scope of transport requests that was introduced after sunset of
Okay.
HTML5. We have change project mechanism, but
Uh,
that is something I can say
okay.
95% of the customers are not using change project mechanism. But yes, if you want to use it, if your project is recommending it, then you have to use a change project mechanism. That is
Okay.
something I'm going to cover in the next session.
Okay. No problem. Now, sorry, I'm asking you a lot of questions, but
No
just out
worries,
of
no worries.
curiosity. So one.
No, that's not out of syllabus. Basically, see, you are from SAP environment and you're asking a relevant questions, so that's not an issue for me. I'm there to help you only.
Yeah. One more thing which I wanted to ask you, what is the logic of having all this move to Fiori? Why they sunsetted the HTML5 and this Silverlight? Was it because
See,
of
basically,
less,
when C4C
they
was
could do
introduced,
many changes?
yeah,
Uh,
that's what I'm seeing. See, basically, we have 3 types of environment where we have to work on it. Admin basically have to navigate to different screen and they have to work on it. And SAP has to work on three screens basically. Okay, so with
okay,
single screen
okay,
they have flexibility, they have to develop everything at a single place only. They don't have to work on the HTML5 configurations, they don't have to work on I can say Silverlight configurations. So with 3 systems they the extra workload is there, right? So that's why they moved on to single
correct.
screen. And second thing was like it was for admin only, and they have provided all the features in the Fiori client, and that's how the system is working nowadays.
Okay, okay. So Fiori,
Okay,
you mean to say, is it more, you can do a lot of developments in Fiori? That is the reason why they moved to Fiori? Or
it's
like
user
they, because
friendly
the HANA
basically.
landscape is also on Fiori, that is, huh?
HANA landscape is also on Fiori, and second thing is it's easy to use. I mean, we don't have to develop a web
Ah,
page. Fiori, we have tiles, but here we have work centers.
okay,
Yeah, and it's
okay,
faster
okay,
also. Fiori is always faster, and I can say because it's based
correct.
on HANA Cloud platform, so it will always be faster as
Okay,
compared to any on-premise system. Because we can do a web, we can, I mean, SAP can easily build a website also, and they can work on it accordingly. But the thing is, they opted to go for I can say Fiori application because it's faster and I can say supported. It's more supportive basically. Okay, so
okay, okay,
this is like a basic thing. Subscription and tenant. As a customer to implement C4C, they would approach the SAP for license and user credentials. For this, SAP would grant them a space in the center server, and that space is referred to as tenant. So basically, hosting where they are hosting the thing, that particular space is known as tenant. So that organization would place a
okay,
subscription for that a particular space in the server of SAP. So basically, they have to pay for that. So that's like we are subscribing from SAP a particular space, and that's how it's working. So this particular process of requesting space is called subscription. So requesting of a space is known as subscription, but where it is
okay,
referred, I mean the place allocated is not a tenant. That's why we used to call it as a tenant.
okay, okay.
Okay, and when an org approaches SAP for a production tenant, SAP would give a test tenant by a free of cost. If you need additional test tenant, you can purchase it additionally. So that's what I told you initially. Like test tenant is free of cost, but if you need an additional tenant, that is chargeable.
So they
Basically, it's
only
a
charge for
user-based
the
charges.
production tenant.
Yeah, they only
Okay.
charge for the
And
production
they
tenant
charge for
and
production tenant and an additional tenant leaving the
user.
quality part, right? Leaving the test
Correct,
tenant. Okay. Okay.
correct, correct.
Okay. So this URL and all which they provide to us, so they have to they buy it from whom? SAP buys it from Azure or they buy it from
SAP,
Amazon?
no,
Whom
no,
do
no.
they buy
It's
this from?
not Azure. It's not Azure. It's not Amazon. It's hosted by SAP itself. Okay, SAP has
Ah,
its own data centers, and that's how they're working on it. Because I hope you are familiar, SAP was totally dependent on Oracle initially, and they used to charge a lot. That's
correct,
why they introduced Fury.
correct,
That's why they introduced HANA, their own
ah,
database. So
correct,
they have their own data
correct,
centers,
correct.
and if you want to navigate to data centers, you can click on the question mark icon, which I showed you initially, and you need a S user ID. I think it can you can log in with the P user ID also, and from there you will get to
Okay,
know how many data centers are there and where your particular cloud application is getting hosted. Okay, and this is the public tenant and private tenant which I just showed you, like which I explained you. If you take a space allocation from SAP, that space will be big enough to get the need of other organization also. That is the same tenant is given to you, is given to other organization also, but enough measures to take the data security. So same tenant will not, same
okay,
tenant means same space is given, but tenant ID will be different. It's not like you are working on a tenant and the
okay.
tenant ID of you and other organization will be same. The space will be same, but tenant ID will be different.
So when
Data
you say
would not.
space means like the
Space
okay,
means
okay,
hosting. I can say hosting. In our terms, we used to call it as a hosting. Data would not be misplaced between
okay,
organization, but the tenants would be shared. But in this case, development you want to do minimize because the control will be lies with SAP. So it's not exact nowadays. It's only 0.01%. I can say if you are making a development, it will be dependent and it might change. Then private tenant is something
oh, okay.
that's placed specially for that particular client, and that's how the system will work.
Okay, okay. But this
Okay.
flexibility is there even today in public tenants, or it is still like control lies with SAP also today? Today also,
It lies with
a
SAP.
public
Let's suppose
tenants.
you're working on a public tenant. Let's suppose you initially opted for a public
Ah,
tenant, but later on you want to switch to private tenant. Then you have to request for SAP and you have to make additional payment. They can convert your public tenant to private tenant also later on.
okay, okay, okay. So
Okay.
once the project is implemented, or even between also all that they do basically.
Okay. So I can say I have to leave for a meeting. So uh, let's connect tomorrow. And I mean, this is the basic I can say overview about SAP C4C. In the next session, I will walk you through the system, like what is the end system, what are the configurations where we used to do configuration by comparing it with CRM on-premise system. Okay, like we have SPRO and where we are configuring the thing. First thing is like I will walk you through that thing first, and then
Actually,
I can start with the yeah. Please go ahead.
yeah. Tomorrow, hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. I lost my network for a minute.
Mhm,
See, tomorrow
mhm.
I have I have some commitments. Can we meet on Friday if you are free? Friday, 10 o'clock or 10:15 if you're okay.
Friday,
Can
10
we meet
o'clock.
on
Okay,
Friday?
yeah. Yeah, we can connect on
Because
Friday,
I
10 o'clock.
initially yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And also, what I want to ask you is that see, there are a couple of questions. You will be sharing
Mhm.
your number, contact details, right? Like, should I ask